This meeting is called to order. This is a Town Council public meeting for May 4th, 2021. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance, a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call.
Robert Carnahan.
Here.
John Foreman.
Present.
Julie Rivera. Here. Ralph Miller.
Present.
Colleen Cuban.
Present.
Richard Sharp.
Here.
Randy Niemeyer.
Present.
I am present. Rick Everly.
Present.
David Oster.
Present.
We have a quorum established. Before we start tonight's meeting, I want to make a couple of agenda notes. In the spirit of prudence, based on a lot of people being interested in some things going on here in Cedar Lake, we're going to, right after the presentation, go to public comment on agenda items and then directly follow that with new business item number 1, which is the Christopher Burke Engineering Agreement for Cedar Lake Eco Restoration Project Phase 2. And then we'll also be moving the item number 2 under new business, which is animal control, joint interlocal cooperation agreement with Lake County, up to right before ordinances and resolutions, right after the consent agenda. So with that, I will turn the floor over to Jed Anderson with Christopher Burke Engineering for the Cedar Lake Eco Restoration presentation. So, Jed, the floor is yours.
Well, good evening. I am Jed Anderson with Christopher Burke Engineering. I've been with Christopher Burke for 32 years, so a long time. I am the project manager on the Cedar Lake Restoration Project. If you could advance the slide. So we've done a phase 1 study where we evaluated the lake. We sampled sediment throughout the lake. We did a bathymetric survey of the lake. And then we evaluated depths of the lake and related to the depths of sediment. So on this map, you'll see color-coded areas: purple, red, green, yellow. On this map, we're identifying areas where we would have dredging in areas less than 8 feet deep with significant organic sediment deposits. So the difference between the pink and the green is areas that will be dredged. The blue are areas that are 8 feet deep or less, but they do not have organic sediment currently in them. So it's really going to be the dredging in the areas that are pink or green. It looks kind of red from here. And it's about 350,000 cubic yards. If you follow, you'll see a gray line going off from the south side of the lake, kind of winding its way around to the Lake County Parks property underneath the railroad tracks to a gray rectangle. That gray rectangle area would be the sediment dewatering facility. So that would be where the sediment would be pumped to as a slurry, dewatered, and then consolidated at that location. That material in the future could be sold off or it could be used as ball fields or other things. The water that leaves that basin would drain back underneath the railroad tracks through the Lake County Parks property and eventually work its way back through the wetland area back to Cedar Lake. Go to the next slide. So it's a little bit small on that screen. So what, in the red circle there, it says 350,000 cubic yards. So that sediment is roughly 40 to 60% water. So we expect that if you take 100 cubic yards of material, for example, it'll squeeze down after it dewaters down to 60 or 40% of its original volume. So to maximize the capacity of the basin, the sediment dewatering basin, we want to extend this project out to 3 or 4 years to allow that sediment to consolidate, meaning that the basin will be smaller because you can pump more material into it next year, and that material would then consolidate. So over a 3-year period, you get ultimately 350,000 net cubic yards of sediment deposition. So we're actually gonna be sucking out more than 350,000 cubic yards. It's the consolidated volume that would be in that basin at the end of the project.
Hey, Jed, would you like to move that farther on the other side of center line?
Sure.
Might as well.
Couple more years, you won't be able to do that, John, without hurting
Yeah, you got that right.
Have a broken ankle.
So, jump to the next slide, please. So there's a concept drawing for that sediment dewatering facility. The water would come in on that northeast corner. It'd work its way around to the west and then to the south and back to the east. And where there's a black square there onto the east side of that basin, that would be a dewatering scour protection pad. The water would then drain off of that area through a little, Rick, can you go up there and point? To the little rivulet here, yep, there, and then go out that little ravine, which we will protect so it doesn't erode. We don't want to create a new situation, so we would do some erosion control and protection of that waterway so water gets back underneath the railroad tracks, back into Lake County Parks property without having any sediment load going into that pond. So there's a pond there. That water will drain through that pond and out the northeast corner of that pond into a huge wetland complex that then drains back into Cedar Lake. So this pond size, we are still optimizing it, trying to minimize its size to the extent we can, because there's a big cost in constructing that basin. And so this is a concept level. With our phase 2 contract, then we'll be refining that design. We're going to be doing field tile surveys of that site, soil borings, what else are we doing? Oh, the topographic survey of that site as well. Next slide, please. So for this project, we have a $5.5 million budget. That includes the design and permitting, which they're going to talk about tonight. It's the construction of the sediment dewatering facility. We're calling it the SDF. Construction of a new pipe sleeve beneath the CSX railroad embankment. They won't allow us to use existing culverts there. We're going to have to install a new pipe there, which will be a sleeve. And then you could, in the future, reuse that. If, say, 30 or 40 years from now you want to do more dredging, you could stick a pipe through that embankment again at that location. Within the parks property, there is a pipe that the water will drain through. That pipe is dilapidated. We would replace that pipe. And then the outlet for that pond I discussed is also in poor repair. We're going to fix that for the Parks Department as well. Then the $5.5 million includes the dredging of the lake and management of that sediment dewatering facility. There would be people there managing the pumps. There's going to be a series of booster pumps. So they'll be working on the booster pumps and the pump and the dewatering control device at that facility. And then at the end of the project, either the deconstruction of that basin or restoration of it. We are still working with the town on, are we going to try to sell this sediment off? Are we going to use it for parks? Is what's going to be the end game for that area? And so we'll be working on that as we do our final design. But that cost does include taking care of that area as if it was just going to stay all on site and we would seed and plant it. Next slide, please. So here's our schedule. It's a little bit chopped off there, but we've got right now 10 months budgeted for design and permitting. And that purple area basically says we've got a little bit of fluff in there. If you look at the top box there, we have IDNR prefers that dredging does not begin until after the 4th of July weekend. So we really have until July, the second week of July, let's say, to get everything all together, all the permits set, and have the sediment dewatering facility constructed. So in late July, start pumping, and we would pump through November if needed. It may happen quicker. Shut down during the winter, and then 2023, repeat that same process again, pumping, and then 2024 pump again. So We have, really about a year to get everything ready. We would do the basin construction, the sediment dewatering facility construction in advance of the pumping, have it all ready to go, and then, turn on the pumps and pump that slurry. You'll see there at the far right, it says 2026 to 2028. When we are done with this dredging project, there still will be organic sediments in the deeper parts of the lake. There may be a desire at that time to do what's called an alum treatment. That's a chemical that would lock up the phosphorus in those sediments. The reason that's on the sheet up there is the Indiana Department of Natural Resources is very, very interested in doing a fish restoration project. What that consists of is rote noting the lake, removing all the fish, and then starting from scratch with a whole new suite of fish, all native to this lake. Right now, most of the fish, really the bulk of the fish, is perch, which are non-native and very invasive, and they want to remove those. They will pay all the costs, but the timing for IDNR is that we have to do the alum treatment. If there is going to be an alum treatment, we do it before they restock the fish. So we would be coordinating with them if the fish stocking portion of this, fish restoration portion of this project were to proceed. Next slide. So our major upcoming tasks, as soon as, if the contract's approved, we're going to jump out there and immediately start doing our topographic survey of the SDF, the railroad tracks, and the west side of the parks property next to the railroad tracks, and that's going to be done by a sister company called Spaceco. Geotechnical borings of the sediment dewatering facility. We want to know what's underneath that facility. We want to know how porous that the ground is underneath that basin, how much water we may lose out the bottom of this, because that'll help us pump. Even if it's a very leaky soil substrate, we'll be able to pump even more slurry into the basin at a faster pace. We're going to do a field tile survey of that SDF. We don't want to block or break any field tiles that affect any drainage of any on or off surrounding properties. We want to make sure we accommodate all incoming and outgoing drainage and not impact any of the agricultural tiles. We want to do additional water quality testing in the lake. This is, again, to help us determine the final decision about the alum treatments. We're going to coordinate with IDM. When we dewater that sediment, we have to, again, release that water out of the basin and have it drain back towards Cedar Lake. They want to make sure that water is clean. And so we're going to come up with a testing protocol that they'll approve, and that will tell us how we treat the water as it goes into the basin and out of the basin. And then finally, we'll do our civil design drawings for engineering, specifications, cost estimates, and big package preparation for the town. Next slide. So these are the various permits we're going to be getting. We're going to have the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. The dredging itself is not a regulated activity. What is regulated are the impacts associated with the infrastructure for the pump equipment. We're going to have to cross wetland areas with temporary road crossings and with the slurry pipes. And so those will be regulated activities. IDEM will regulate under Rule 5, the soil erosion and sediment control aspects of the SDF and the slurry pipe routing and temporary roads. And like I said a minute ago, the dewatering practices. Those permits go in hand with the Corps permit. IDNR is going to review this project under one permit package called the Lakes Preservation Act. They're going to lump a bunch of reviews under this one application for their ease, interdepartment, and for our ease of just preparing one package. And that package will also include a review for Fish and Wildlife. IDNR Division of Enforcement will be the ones that review if there are proposed changes for the no-wake zone signage in the lake. If that proceeds, they would do that review outside of the Lakes Preservation Act review though. Lake County Parks will review the project for the slurry pipe location. We have met with them, and in concept they were agreeable to crossing their property. We have gathered and spoken to CSX Railroad. We've gathered the documents to submit to them the application for a license to install that new pipe. And then we will have to work with the MISICs to obtain a temporary easement across their property with the slurry pipe and the dewatering swale. Next slide, please. So again, back to the IDNR, they are strongly recommending the fishery restoration. They would completely fund it and handle all aspects of that restoration project. So once the dredge project is completed, most likely in 2024, they would follow up with a fishery restoration, remove all non-native and invasive species. Again, the alum treatment, if the fishery is going to be restored, we need to, and alum treatment is preferred, then that would be done prior to the fish restocking. We need to tell IDNR in advance at least 2 years what our plans are, because it takes them 2 years to raise the fish for the stocking. They will task all their fish hatcheries to have the fish ready to go as soon as our dredging or alum treatment is finished. And then they'll restock the fishery once that's done. Again, they'll take care of that public outreach. They'll have public hearings and meetings. They'll do all the removal and disposal, and then they'll do all the restocking, and then they'll do the follow-up fish sampling to make sure if restocking is necessary, they would take care of that. Next slide, please. Questions?
Anyone on council have any questions for Mr. Anderson?
No, I would say that, Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to add a few things if I could.
John, before you do that, if you could introduce to the audience the committee that's been working on this, the working committee, so.
That's exactly what I wanted to
Yep,
do,
that'd be
that
great.
and a few other comments. So, Jed, thank you very much. I was hoping to see Kay tonight, tell her thank you very much for all of her hard work over the years. As Randy just mentioned, in recent months, or I should say in recent years, we've created a eco-restoration committee. It was made up amongst 3 of us council members, as well as Doug Spencer. As a citizen member, Doug has brought a lot to the table with his years of service working at BP in the water and treatment centers there. Dan Pager also was a citizen member appointed to the board. He's in the audience here. Bob Gross, who was one of the founding CLIA members as well. So he was our CLIA representative. CLIA is a Cedar Lake Enhancement Association. Then myself, Ralph Miller, and Julie Rivera made up the rest of the folks on our committee. That being said, the past 25 or 30 years, I think it's very important to note that many earlier council members, many CLIA members and founders, some of whom are no longer with us. For example, Senator Sue was very instrumental in us getting this project off the ground. She worked, effortlessly with Pete Pisklowski's office to try to get some federal funding, and at that time we started down the Army Corps path. You can't forget the famous chicken dinners that the I pledged the dredge. That initial dollars that were raised essentially were what allowed us to repair the tributaries, add bank stabilizations. Those folks did catch basins throughout our entire watershed. And what makes this lake really unique, not just to all of us, but even to the Army Corps of Engineers, was it's a glacial lake, and we have our own watershed. So essentially, it's a stormwater basin for many of the acres that surround it, and it's kind of unique. Most lakes are dammed up tributaries because of creeks and things like that, and reservoirs. So that early grassroots effort, you can't say enough about. And then the incredible support that we've had from our state and county representatives, especially Mr. Rick Niemeyer, our state senator, and our state rep, Mike Aylesworth. Early on in this project, and Diane Justice, representing the chamber, they were brave enough to, I think, jump in the van with me and go to Chicago. And we met at the Army Corps' offices.
That is brave, John.
And we had some good meetings there. Bob Gross attended some of those as a CLIA representative. We even met our former vice president, Mike Pence, when he was our governor. We found a way through Burke Engineering to have a seat at the table at many luncheons in order to meet some of our governors and state officials. Mr. Tippie, our county commissioner, has been super supportive over the years. Mr. Jorgensen,
our county commissioner, or councilman, I should say, has been on board with us, so we'd like to thank those guys. And also a special shout out to Mr. Peterman. About a year or two ago, he hosted us, a group of us, and we never really sent out the proper thank you to him for hosting us with some of the Speaker of the House. I think was it Mr. Bozma, Randy, that you and I and Ralph met with, and some other folks from Indianapolis?
Todd Houston was there, who's now the Speaker of the House. Yeah.
So, I think it's important to know that. And, as you all know, over the last decade, we've had meetings, and we've had lots of meetings. A few of us went out to Washington, D.C. We met with the Corps out there. We've had meetings at the Chicago district, as I mentioned. And the Corps has come here. We've done some pitches to the RDA, and we've just tried to keep this at the forefront and out there in the public. So it's been a long road. We identified a project. It was just a bit out of reach for us, and there was no guarantee on the federal dollars that we thought that we could use as a part of the match. Not to mention the town citizens really deserved more of the locally preferred plan, which added quite a bit of dredging, and it probably absolutely made it out of reach from that standpoint. So I think our new plan and all the hard work that we've done over the years with Kay Whitlock in her direction, as being a VP up there at Christopher Burke Engineering, has really helped us quite a lot. So, I'm happy to be here tonight. Jed, thank you again for the work you've done, the committee, and so on and so forth. Randy, I don't know if maybe Bob Gross from CLIA wants to say anything or not, but I think it's a great testament to, the desire and keep evaluating any and all ideas. Even in the last year, we looked at other possible places to put the dredgings, and Jed was super responsive in getting back to us with an engineered reason as to why or why not. And some of the consultants that has on his team have done a lot of lakes around the Midwest, so they have a very good understanding of what it's going to take to not just dredge this great body of water, but quite honestly, how are we going to keep it sustainable? So that's another project for another day. So that's about all I have. So thank you.
Thanks, John. That's a mouthful that John just said. I'm glad that he wrote some of it down. But the reason we're here today, and the reason this is different than past public gatherings that we've had, you don't see a colonel from the Army Corps here tonight. This is a project that we've taken on ourselves because of what was going on through the federal project was kind of pie in the sky. It was reaching for a pot of gold, and really it's thanks to the people of this community that this is even possible right now. There's been a lot of folks that have moved in here. The growth of the community has contributed greatly to our financial ability to fund this. We have a very vibrant business community that, if you look at how we're going to fund a good portion of this, will be through a TIP revenue bond, which is directly from our business community. So we're trying to do this project with minimal, if possible, no impact to the property tax rate. So utilizing revenue sources that aren't backed by residential property taxes is our goal. $5.5 million is what our financial advisor had determined that we have capacity for right now, so we're prepared to invest that in the lake. And I know I've talked to Mr. Gross, and there's a lot of enthusiasm with elected officials too. State Senator Rick Niemeyer's here, State Rep Mike Aylesworth, County Councilman Christian Jorgensen, and County Commissioner Jerry Tippie are all here with us tonight. Obviously, we'll be looking for any and all support that we can get from different government agencies. The federal government has been shaking the money tree, and it's been falling on all of us lately, which we can agree or disagree, but the money is there, and it's a matter of making sure we have the right projects that we can invest in that will create sustainability for a community from an economic standpoint, and also protect property owners and property values as the community continues to grow. So this is one of these hallmark projects that, if it's done the right way, can really help to sustain us for the next 50 years plus. So it's exciting. Bob, if you want to say a few words about what CLIA is doing in conjunction with this project to try and help boost that $5.5 million budget so that some of those sustainability activities that John and Jed talked about on the back end of this can be properly funded. Bob, you can have the floor.
Thank you, Randy. Well, for me, as a lot of you know me, this is a very exciting day that we're finally to this point. We've been working on this for many, many years. Matter of fact, we started CLEA as a nonprofit. David helped us set it up back then. I was 38 years old when we started it, and we're finally here.
And you're 41 now?
I feel like 90 today. So, we've already done some groundwork. We're gonna start a GoFundMe page, and that will be available to everybody here soon, to help, anybody that can help a little bit, they can go out and help us. As Randy mentioned, we've already talked to a lot of our representatives about other avenues for money. My goal for CLEA is to raise another $2 to $3 million through all those avenues to grow the project as much as we can while we're doing it. And if we have the ability to take more sediment out of the lake, or we have additional funds, we'll do that. CLEA, and I think John mentioned the signs that we had years ago. We still have $200,000 in CLEA's account today. It's been sitting there all these years for this time. We have used some of that money over the years for some of the inlet projects that have gone on around the community for years now. There's too many to mention. We want to use that for match money for maybe some of the community foundations that will be knocking on their door shortly as we start moving forward with this project. And thank you to the council. Hopefully we get that vote tonight and we move forward with this. And
It's shaky, Bob, I don't know.
Go either way.
So we're praying that they all vote yes tonight and we move forward with this. And we will continue to raise as much money as we can to make the project as big as we can as we're moving forward with this. So thanks to everybody that's contributed. Frank's been on CLEA with me for all these years. Diane always said to me she hoped that she would live to see this happen. And she even said it on the phone today. And now I think that's going to happen, Diane. Thank goodness. Because there are a lot of people that contributed that are no longer with us. And that really hurt me that we couldn't do it faster. But the Corps, many people know it. They studied for 16 years. 16 years all that. And then we ended up using it. So I think this will move much faster. And thanks again.
Thanks, Bob. And to segue off of what Bob said about 16 years, I like the timeline you have there, Jed, because it's not a typical government timeline. Government is not known for moving through projects with expediency always. So it's good that this is a fully locally funded project because it gives us that agility through the project to be able to hit benchmarks. Now, I told John and Ralph and others that I haven't always shared the same passion for the project because we had no funding mechanism in place. Now we do. So my passion is going to be to make sure that people like you, our attorney, our financial advisors, our staff are hitting all of those dates. Because I don't want to hear of more time. Bob mentioned quite well that a lot of people have died waiting for this. It was almost becoming like waiting for the Cubs to win the World Series. So let's all take a very aggressive and focused approach on this. This is an important project to get done. Get our roots planted in it right away, and as soon as everything is ready to start engaging our financial people, we want to have agenda items in front of us that are prepared and ready to do that. So Senator Niemeyer, Rep. Aylesworth, Mr. Jorgensen, Mr. Tippy, any of you have anything you'd like to add to tonight's presentation? You're welcome to take the floor.
My thinking of this project is living here all my life. Part of what was going on through my dad, through Sweet Center, through Lansing. There's the project now is so that and once you get it moving, you have money. Getting more money is sometimes a little easier because you have skin in the game now. And most of the DNR and these places, Mike and I can help out state with a $500 million economic development stimulus package we put in the budget. IEDC is controlling that. And they're going to be looking for applications over the summer for economic development projects in communities, cities, and towns. So see if that's feasible for you, and something that you can apply for. And whatever you need help in the DNR or any kind of permitting process or something that we can help with, I mean, just let us know and, we'll be involved. But I think there's some availability of money right now. Like Randy said, a lot of money floating around right now. The state got $5.7 billion from the federal government. What could they send to us? You know, it was like, did we really need it? Well, we all need it, but, we took it because we didn't want Illinois to have it. The money, but we did not backfill any of our budget with that money. That money is outside our budget, outside our tax revenue. So that money is gonna be available for short-term projects. We're gonna pay a lot of debt service off on loans we have, and Purdue University and IU, all the buildings we built down there. So it's a good time. The timing is perfect for it to go there today, and we had to be part of it.
Thank you, Senator Niemeyer.
Yes, I would concur with my friend Senator Niemeyer. We're at a lucky point in the state budgeting process, and I think if you got skin in the game now, I think we will work hard to get you some money through IEDC. I think there's money out there, and we'll work with you in grants, meet with people downstate, and see if we can help the process speed up a little bit and enhance things. So I'm really excited about this project in the future for all of you in Cedar Lake. It's really, really fun to see, and thank those of you that have worked for how many years on this?
A dozen.
25.
30.
Time to see it come to fruition is really neat. It's a great process. So thank you. We'll, Senator Niemeyer and I will do our share to see what we can do in Indianapolis with the money that's available. So appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Councilman Jorgensen.
Thank you very much for having us here. I'm excited about the project. I know I've talked to many of you over the past years about seeing this come to fruition, and it's exciting that it's finally here. And I can't think of a better council to shepherd this through than you all. Most of you I know very well, and of course the leadership of Randy. I know it's about money, and there is a lot of money falling around. So having learned about the project and trying to investigate what it is that we can do as a county, there's a few things that I wanted to mention that I can do to help, or I'm going to try to do to help anyway. We talked about, and Senator Niemeyer mentioned that we've received a lot of money, and good or bad or ugly, we don't want to see it going to other states other than ours. So we're going to take it. But with that, there are strings attached. The American Rescue Plan, which we call ARP, authorized $130 billion for federal funding for COVID-related issues. Lake County is expected to receive $94 million of that money. Our first of that half comes about May 15th. Now, unfortunately, we haven't received the guidelines yet as to the different ways we can spend it. Now, the act itself has parameters as to what it can be spent on. It's expected to grow. Unfortunately, one of the things that I'm sure Commissioner Tippy knows about and disappointed is infrastructure. It's not in it. But one of the important things that is involved is sewer and water programs. And this is where kind of a light bulb went off in my head. And I recently spoke to the surveyor, Phil Emerson, to see whether or not his office would be interested, once we receive the ARP funds, to collaborate on something to help you folks with this. I mean, Cedar Lake, as we know, affects Lake County in general tremendously. So he's excited about it. I'm excited about it. Right now, I'd like to take a very liberal view on the sewer and water programs that are allowed under the current ARP protocol. To that extent, there was a financing meeting last week with commissioners and us and everybody else, and we're still waiting for the guidelines, but that's something that I hope to present and offer to you folks through the surveyor, at least until we have something more concrete for the outlying areas to contribute to this. So anything that I can do in Lake County to that end, and as things progress, I'll let you know, and excited, and hopefully that'll come to fruition.
Great.
Thank you, Christian.
Yeah, thank you.
Commissioner Tippy?
Do I still have some time left?
Let me check. If you can limit it to 45 seconds, I'd appreciate it.
I'll talk real fast. Really,
Take your time, Jerry.
congratulations to all of you on this project. I've been watching over the last roughly 5 years and working with you and going to meetings with you and doing whatever I could to support the project, and it's great to see that you've been able to put something together that appears is gonna stick and move forward. Beyond what, Councilman Jorgensen said, regarding funding, any issues that you may have with the county, regarding permitting, I'm also on the drainage board, so, any of those issues that may come forward, feel free to ask, and please keep me up to speed and involved with what you're doing.
We will do that, Jerry. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry.
And to segue off what Christian said, we're looking at that as a town too, is the 2.7 million in ARP dollars that we spend is to take at least a portion of that, because there is a provision within the initial guidance that says some of it can be used for, like you said, stormwater and for tourism. So there are those things in there that without the details, we don't quite know yet, but we're looking at those avenues as well. So those are funding mechanisms that we're all looking at as a way to, minimize the impact to our taxpayers and maximize the benefit, which if you look at a way to spend tax dollars, that's what you always want to do, is make sure that the taxpayers get the most benefit out of every dollar. So it is your money or your grandchildren's money that Santa Claus in Washington sent to us. So we want to make sure that our grandchildren can benefit from their dollars.
Very good.
Any other questions, comments from the council? Mr. Austin?
No comments.
We'll go to public comment now on agenda items, so it could be this item or any other agenda item, public comment on agenda items.
Randy, Claudia Carlson, I just wanna say how happy I am that this is, happening. It's because of people like Dr. King and Mr. Powder, Geraldine, even when we were first started, the lake to Cleveland Lake is why this town was started. And, we've come a long way, and we want to say thanks and happy.
Thanks, Claudia, and we appreciate your years of service here too. Everybody that served is a part of projects like this. So whether you sit up here or have a vote on these things, the contributions that people have made 30 years ago are a part of this today. So
yeah, and those folks that you hit a nail on the head. Those folks that started this town 50 years ago, it took guts, and they lost a lot of friends over it. And some of them got voted out shortly after the sewer referendum, if you will, went down, or the building of the co-op with Lowell. However, that was the biggest cause of a lot of the disastrous waters that we are still fighting today. So every council along the way has done their best to fix some of the stormwater runoffs that go from these communities and subdivisions right into the lake, and it's taken a few decades, but we're certainly grateful for those folks that started this community.
And the town was recognized several years ago for some of our stormwater projects that we've done in the connecting neighborhoods to the lake. So
Yes.
a lot has been invested in the time leading up to this in managing that stormwater runoff, so that when we could do this project,
Right.
that we don't have the lake filling back in with all of the things that it's full of right now. So,
That's right.
and I think there's probably a few people in the audience that have lost things in the lake over the years, and hopefully they find them in the dredging and you can claim your property. Mr. Lawton, is there a few things that you've left in there over the years? But thank you, everyone, for attending tonight, and if this is the item that you came for, I hope that you got the information you were looking for and that you continue to follow along. And as Mr. Gross had mentioned about the GoFundMe page, I'm going to ask that our town manager put this up on our website so you have an easy link to it if you decide to donate money. So we hope that all of you are enthusiastic throughout this process. New business, item number one, the one that...
Mr. Chairman?
Two comments, may
Yeah.
I? And segue on Claudia's comments about our past and where we're at tonight as a consequence of that. The last of the council members, town board members, who sat on the town board when the sewers went in, Wally Napick, passed away in the last month. Think about, he was 89, Wally was 89.
Wow.
There's a lot of history in what has happened from then when those sewers went in the ground to now when you're about to embark on the final really cleanup of the lake component of the sewer system. So, those,
Including
are-
your late father, correct? He served on the
my dad did, yes.
board?
So did Claudia's dad. So, there's a lot of history in the room.
That's true.
And thank you, Claudia, for that. So I just wanted to make certain that we remembered our history and went forward. And if this is an item that, at least conceptually, Randy, you want to solicit a motion from your council tonight to move this matter along and kick your consultants in the fanny and get everybody on task, that might be a nice gesture. I think that's what Bob was asking for. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Well, that's gonna be part of my job too, is while John and Ralph and others are out drumming up all of the enthusiasm and interest, I'm gonna be this guy with not a gavel, but a hammer.
That's what I was afraid of.
And I wanna make sure that everybody is aware of what their job is in this, and that we move this thing forward, because we don't need another generation passing without getting this done. The opportunity is right now, and who knows how long that'll last, but,
You got it.
so I think in this first, consideration agenda item, David, it kind of puts that into play as, getting everybody ready to go, and the marching orders will be there if the council approves it, which, I mean, you never know, Bob, it's still a democratic vote, so we'll see what
That's
happens. So with that, I'll introduce the first agenda item, under new business. Item number 1 is the, CBBEL Agreement Cedar Lake Restoration Project Phase 2 Engineering Proposal. So the, milestone dates on this that I'll read into the record are 3/1 of 21, notice to proceed. 3/15 of 21 kickoff meeting in town, 4/15 of 21 initial agency stakeholder meetings, 6/15 of 21 is pre-final submittal, 9/15 of 21 is final submittal, 11/15 of 21 is receive all permits, 11/22 of 21 is bid set submittal, 1/17 of 22 is open bids, 2/17 of 22 is award, and 3/21 of 22 is begin construction. So that's the timeline that needs to be in the record and that everybody needs to adhere to. That's a good timeline. The engineering proposal with 16 tasks attached has a overall cost of $387,513. Is there a motion by the council to approve the proposal as read into the record and submitted? Motion by Mr. Miller,
And Mr. Chairman, I'd like to second Ralph's motion.
second by Mr. Foreman. Are there questions or discussion on the motion? Roll call vote, please.
Robert Carnahan?
I'm gonna make a statement before I, vote. Nobody mentioned me, but I did. I served on the PLEA board.
I apologize, Bob.
$500 sign for pledged cigarettes. I went to all the fundraisers they had. I rode the boat over with Pete McCloskey to Bob Gross's house, which we hosted him, and he was very appreciative of all the stuff we had done in advance. I also wasn't happy with what the Army Corps of Engineers wanted to do. I thought it was too costly, and I had heard from the state that they might be able to help us. So I was told I couldn't say anything publicly about what the Army Corps was going to do, and that we were going to pull away from that after we got the plan. So I waited until that was over with. Now we have a financial plan that has been presented to us so that we can do this. And it's, with that statement, I vote yes.
Thanks, Bob.
Yeah.
John
I also served on the Eco Restoration.
Yes, you did. You went to
Committee
Chicago with us.
And went to Chicago.
Yeah, and I didn't mean to neglect you, Bob. Thank you for your help, service, and everything you wanted to thank you for. And I, Mr. Chairman, would like to vote yes.
Thank you. Continue.
Julia Rivera,
Yes.
Ralph Miller,
Yes.
Colleen Stevens,
Yes.
Richard Sharp,
Yes.
Randy Neiman.
Yes, motion carries 7-0, unanimous, so passes, so let's get started.
It's a great day for future generations. I can honestly say that. So this is a wonderful thing.
Hey, there's no crying in government, Doug.
That's right.
Yep. Now, we're excited. We're happy to be a part of this, and we appreciate you guys trusting us with this job, and we're gonna do the best we can to make sure that future generations look back and say, well, at least they did one thing right.
That's right.
Yeah.
You're all welcome to stay. Obviously, we have a very exciting meeting full of town business. I appreciate everybody attending who's interested in this item. But again, it's a public meeting, so,
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
yeah, they'll roll up the streets in Hebron, Mike, I think, after 9 o'clock at night, so. Yeah.
Yes.
I tell them, save us a seat, but we won't make it.
No, we're not gonna make it.
We're not gonna make it.
It's gonna be a long meeting. We got a few resolutions
No,
to get through.
listen, I'm gonna have this thing in high gear here.
Okay, let's rock and roll, baby.
Let's do it.
Well.
Let's do it.
We're gonna let everybody kind of file out who wants to leave, and the others will enjoy this exciting meeting. Thank you, Christian. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll start with our consent agenda.
We got Lighthouse.
We have the minutes of the April 2021 meeting. Use and fee waiver request, Cub Scout Pack 129 requesting a use and waiver fee of town grounds to camp overnight, June 4, 6 p.m. to June 5, 1 p.m. Note they did have their waiver last year they did not use their waiver last year due to COVID restrictions. Item B is Gary Shakespeare Company Free Midnight Summer's Dream Show, Bandstand, August 14, 2021. Note they did have their waiver. It's hard to read. Yeah, okay. They did not use their waiver last year due to COVID restrictions. Item 3 is claims, all town funds, $177,521.57. Wastewater operating, $124,329.73. Water utility, $24,741.80. Stormwater, $15,109.62. And payroll, April 29, 2021, of $224,576.93. Is there a motion to accept and waive the reading of the minutes and accept the consent agenda as listed?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Sharp,
I'll second.
second by Ms. Sheben. Questions or discussion?
Yeah. On the claims, I see we've got, the PSAP, for $65,437. Are we still paying on the, pass-through, money that we owe them
Yes, through the end of this year.
through the end of this year? So that will go down eventually.
Just under $9,000 for the back end.
Any other questions or discussion? Roll call?
Robert Carnahan,
Yes.
John Foreman.
Yes.
Julia Rivera,
Yes.
Ralph Miller,
Yes.
Colleen Stevens.
Yes.
Richard Sharp,
Yes.
Randy Neiman.
Yes, motion carries 7-0. What, no applause for that one? Oh, there you go. Now, I like that. I kinda like applause after every meeting item. That's great.
You're gonna get spoiled, Randy.
Not gonna happen. We usually get booed. Item 2, we're gonna go to under new business is the Animal Control Joint Interlocal Cooperation Agreement with Lake County. I'll turn this over to Councilmember Rivera. Julie, the floor is yours.
Okay, so we all know, we've heard from residents, they're upset that we don't have our own animal control, that we don't have an agreement with animal control. Basically, when people find animals or dogs, they post it on Facebook, and hopefully the owner comes through, and sometimes they don't. You know, I'm sure they call our police department a lot, and trying to get some help for animals. So this is something that we kind of kick the can down the road a bit. Right now, we don't have an agreement with animal control, and I've spoken to the director there, and Mr. Cantrell was kind enough to come by and answer some of our questions about this proposed contract.
Mr. Cantrell?
Yes.
The floor is yours.
Ms. Coppin's here with me as well.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
My name is John Cantrell. I represent Oscar Martinez and Lake County Sheriff's Department and the animal control program that we do have at Lake County. And in the past, Cedar Lake has used our services before. We charge per animal per month when we take an animal in, and the animal is given all kinds of vaccinations. Ms. Coppin can answer some of the questions that some of the individuals may have. I do think that there's a little bit of a difference in this contract because we've had some problems. We take animals from a lot of municipalities that don't have their own animal control program. Some cities and towns do. Cedar Lake doesn't, and there's a lot of municipalities here in Lake County that we take animals from. And the difference in this contract, it's a little bit different. Requires that if there's some veterinary bills that are required, the town would have to pay those. Because in the past, Lake County has paid for those, and there usually is not an issue, but sometimes, like just for example, something that happened, a dog got brought in and the dog had eaten a whole corn cob, and we had to have the corn cob surgically removed. Lake County Animal Shelter, we take in about 800 animals a year. About 780 are adopted every year, so we're a no-kill shelter. It's a very loving environment for animals, and we just try to make sure that if the animal can be saved, we save it. And so sometimes that's a little bit expensive, but if you think about just getting your own animal control, even like a NIPSCO bill, or an employees and insurance and having a building, it's expensive. So what the animal control department does at Lake County is provide very cheap services, and Ms. Coppin can speak to a bunch of those that we do provide. And you know, we don't take the animal to the vet all the time. Most of the services and most of the shots that animals get are done in-house. Go ahead.
So yeah, I'm a registered veterinary technician. I've been in hospital clinic life for over 20 years, so now being the director here, from what I hear, I'm the first to be able to do the majority of what needs to be done medically in-house. We get from a vendor, Patterson Veterinary Supply, so I'm able to buy the supplies, the vaccines, tests that we need, that, you know, which are a lot more expensive when you vet them out in-house. And we only charge the various places what we pay ourselves. Like, we don't do anything for profit. Obviously, there are certain things. I'm a registered vet technician. I am not a veterinarian. So any exam, rabies by law, any surgeries that need to be done. And, you know, the thing with animal control, a lot of the animals, you know, we get in, you know, we want them to be returned back to their owner, and that's a happy ending, and that often happens. You have to think a lot of animals are dumped, discarded, they're in very poor health. I can show you pictures on my phone of what we can get in at times. Something recent, and this is from our own jurisdiction, but my one field officer was dispatched out to retrieve a Doberman from a ditch, had a chain around his neck and a padlock. We had to get that, like, removed properly. It was so emaciated. So what I'm saying, how do you put a price on, so that animal's going to require more than one that comes in and it's not looking that way. So I don't know, it's not like I planned for spending this much on that. but it's just some come in that are very, very sickly. Obviously, we do the preliminary. My main thing is, you know, when we get them in, we start with the basics, go from there. As things go around, we start seeing sort of flags. Yeah, the diagnostics with the veterinary clinics will be to get that diagnosis. And sometimes the diagnosis is, like with that one young dog was only like 6 months old, they said it has a foreign body. Everything else, all the vitals, everything else perfectly fine. Once we remove that, well then, it's adoptable. So that's a good ending. Obviously, when there's something that comes in and they're like, everything's necrotic, or they've liver kidney failure, and it's like, the prognosis is not good, well then, obviously, you make the logical, humane decision along with the veterinarian, of course. So, yeah, it's just, I'm happy to always answer any questions. I've invited each place to come visit, see what it is we do, but.
How many years have you been there?
So I have been there 2 years, I'll be 2 years director June 1st.
Any questions from the council?
What other communities, do you do business with, that you have contracts with, but that are similar to ours?
Okay, so we send the contract out. I mean, when I came to the position, the contracts were already expired that had been put out there, and it was to the Lake County areas, town cities that do not have an animal control. So that's Cedar Lake, Lowell, Schneider, Winfield, and Crown Point. To my knowledge, or how it was explained to me, was Crown Point, Schneider, and Lowell agreed upon that contract, and that's who we did contract with back then. Those have expired, and these are the new contracts, the up-to-date ones, and they've been sent to the same 5 places as before, so everybody's getting the same opportunity.
So all the other cities and towns have their own animal control?
Yeah, East Chicago, yeah, St. John, Dyer, everybody else, Maryville, name it, they got it.
So the only real difference, and things that are different in this contract and what has been done in the past is before there was an agreement in respect to a limit on the veterinary bills, and that's no longer something that agreement was made many years ago. And you know, if you have an animal that's sick and the limit is $150, I mean, like I have 3 dogs. I can't think of a time where my animal has been sick and I walk out of there with $150. I would skip out of there if it was $150. So, but I mean, it's rare that you know, an animal has to be taken out, because the animal control provides so many services because of Ms. Coppin and her leadership and her ability and her degree. So it's rare, but sometimes, you know, a corn cob has to be taken out of a dog. Like, that's just the way things are.
I have a question for you, Attorney Cantrell.
Yes, sir.
So if a resident comes in here, gets the form that would have to accompany bringing an animal, and let's say in transit or while they're getting the animal into a vehicle or out of a vehicle, that a dog or a cat or something bites a person. In this contract, there's a lot of indemnification.
For sure.
So what would happen in a will we be open to a tort claim, possible lost wages and other things for people?
Well, I mean, that's a good question for Mr. Austin, but one of the things that we require is animals get brought to us. So, like, we won't come here if there's an issue with a stray animal. We wouldn't come here. The animals are brought to us.
That's what I'm saying, is that if somebody brought one to you and something like that happened while they were in transit, transporting it to the county, although it's not necessarily a direct function of the town, by this indemnification clause, it looks as if we would be liable for all claims that could come from an incident like that while the animal is in transit in a private vehicle with a private citizen.
Well, private vehicle, private citizen, like, there's no duty for the town of Cedar Lake to protect humans from getting stray animals and putting them in their car. So, like, if somebody picked up a dog and they're a dog lover, they wouldn't have because the choice would be, well, call a police officer, call a representative of the town and let them handle it. If you put an animal in your car, that's at your own risk. And I don't believe the town, or even if we weren't indemnified, I don't believe the sheriff's department would be on the hook for that. You know, if you love animals and you want to put an animal in your car and they bite you, I don't think the town of Cedar Lake would, especially if the town, like, let's say the town was called and then they refused to go or refused to participate or something along those lines, but that doesn't happen. So I don't see is there any liability there.
I didn't know if there was any cases like that have happened to this point that you know of?
I'm not aware of any,
I'm not either,
Okay.
and I mean, the most common one we do contract with, is with Crown Point. And really, I can see your concern. With any live animals, you always put yourself at risk. And I knew that coming into this profession and everything. I think most people who are animal lovers, they're living creatures, so they have their own mind. But yeah, basically it's been simple. People who are able to contain an animal in itself usually are comfortable enough to go and, transport it. Obviously if it was one at large and vicious, well then it would be a whole other story. But usually when people are like, oh, I just found this little poopy dog.
I just know injury attorneys well enough from lawsuits that I've been sued in to know that they throw everybody into it. Absolutely everybody that was ever connected to anything that had to do with the case. So, that's why I asked that question. I don't have a great deal of faith in how the, injury attorneys work.
yeah, they'll sue you and your ancestors, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Give you an example, we had an accident out on White Oak, and the governor was named, lieutenant governor, all the way down, and it came to our town council, and our town attorney had us removed from it because it was out of our jurisdiction.
Lucky you have a good lawyer.
Any other, questions for,
Mr. Chairman, would you mind if I ask a question?
Commissioner Tippy, by all means?
At some point in time, I'll be looking at this contract.
Yes, sir.
My question would be, we're adding vet bills to charges to Cedar Lake in this contract.
If they run,
Do you notify Cedar Lake before you spend any money? Or do you just do the procedures and bill Cedar Lake?
well, no, it's something that's done on like a veterinarian, like a vet will always come in and give you options, just like if I don't know if you're a pet owner at all, but like a lot of times, you'll get 5 different options and they all have different costs and fees, so we always try to make those decisions, and Ms. Coppin probably answer that one better.
If Cedar Lake is paying the bill, will they be involved in the decision-making process? I guess is my question.
So pretty much how it works, when they first come to us on intake, obviously do minimal. They go to an intake area where it's kind of quarantined from our residents, who we know are current on their vaccines, because we don't know anything about these animals. And they can come in with all sorts of diseases. So the first thing, it's just like a process where you can first thing get a fecal, deworm them. Then, okay, day 2, they're still here. Nobody's coming for them. Basically, we have a 3-day hold for animals that don't have any sign of ownership whatsoever. That means there's no collar, there's no tattoo, there's no, chip, they're not spayed, neutered, nothing like that. If it's known that an owner obviously has owned this animal, we keep them for 10 days. So after those stray holds, technically they become Lake County property per se, or your property if you want to look at it that way. And that's where we sort of get more aggressive with, okay, well, are they spayed or neutered? That needs to be done. No animal gets adopted out without being spayed or neutered. That's why we're there, overpopulation.
So is that included to the charges? The reason and I don't mean to be, make this go on and on, but this may come up with some other municipalities as well, so.
Yeah.
I just wanna, just the quick answer is, or the quick question, is Cedar Lake involved in the decision-making as you go through the process of generating bills?
So they would not be.
You're gonna bill them after, you're gonna go through your normal process.
Yeah.
You're gonna determine
They
all
get
the
the
costs that
same.
you incurred, and then you're gonna bill Cedar Lake.
Yeah, they get the exact same treatment as they would get if they were Lake County, and nothing, and I would never go, oh, they're Cedar Lake or Crown Lake, let's wreck up their bill.
Okay, come on, we've
I don't
heard
say,
that
like,
before.
put a dental on their neuter. No, it's just like to basically in-house, I do all the fecal deworming, heartworm tests, leukemia FIV tests, their blood tests for test stuff. And they got the basic, when I say basic, they're vaccines that are needed, but they're not ones, the rabies vaccine is the only one that the veterinarian has to do. And then once we get all the in-house vetting done, as I call it, then we outsource them to the either Coin or Hanover, that's who we have contracts with. They're very good to us, give us discounts, we get those same discounts. That's why I attach those vet bills so you can see that's what we're being charged. We're not making any profit or anything. And my hope obviously is after we get one in, that all they need is to be altered in the rate. Now, of course, sometimes things come up, say the veterinarian sees them, and it's like, you know what, their gums are tailed, we recommend doing some blood work. And we only start adding on diagnostics, adding on things when it's necessary.
So
You know?
you said Hanover, right here on US
Yeah,
41,
mhm.
and Coin, was it
Yeah,
the one right here in St.
Broadway.
John? Oh, it's one on Broadway?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
So I have a question.
go ahead, John.
Can we bypass, if we did a contract with you, can we also have a deal with Hanover where we just take the dog there?
But that would be a complete separate, if you wanted to contract with them, I'm sure.
I mean, if indirectly.
We would have to have a way to
We don't give
intake
the
them.
vaccines or the rabies shots?
Well, I do give the
Oh, you
vaccine,
do
just
that.
the rabies shot, I do
Oh,
not,
okay.
or altering the animal.
Okay, never mind.
Yeah, they have a way to intake them
Gotcha.
first, and
See, so like, let's say
I
that,
was hoping Chief Fisher could drop them off in Hanover.
let's say, you know, all animals need a Bordetella shot, like if you're gonna board your animal and things like that.
Yeah.
If that costs $4, that's what we buy it for, that's what the town gets
Yeah,
billed
I
for,
understand
yeah.
now. Okay, I was just unclear on
So
that.
basically, no labor for most services. And, you know, a lot of municipalities have discussed the contract with us and their attorneys, and, you know, it becomes an issue of, like, do you want to save this animal? And, you know, like, one of the attorneys says to me, like, well, a bullet's a whole lot cheaper, and that's just not how we operate, to be honest with you.
Yeah, but if you look at society right now, they're not cheaper, so don't worry.
yeah. Yeah, let it
Can't
go.
find
Fine, cheap, yeah.
Well, Ms. Coppin, I appreciate your competence on this, and it's nice to see that Lake County has you in this position of leadership of this department,
I
because
enjoy it.
it sounds like you have a great deal of passion for it, and it's appreciated. It's a very important job. Any other questions? So I'll make this comment. The council can't necessarily enter into this contract until we have a resolution established. So, if the council wants to enter into the contract, we can make consideration tonight to direct that resolution be drafted, for the next council meeting, so that, Chief Fisher, you have
I
anything?
just wanted to say real quick, we have a problem right now in our community where we have to know where to take the dogs. I know that it's difficult on the council to enter into a contract like this and to do something like this because of the potential cost. I believe it's 1 year. We've had really good relationship with the Lake County Animal Control for years. We had a good contract for a long time, that eventually changed. We did some research. The most we ever spent was about $1,800 over an entire quarter. So it hasn't been a big cost as of yet. I respect that, but we have to do something. We just have nowhere to take the dogs, and the cost effectiveness of having animal control, a shelter, taking care of them 7 days a week. I don't know that outweighs the potential of signing a contract with the county.
Thank you, Chief Fisher. So, if the council cares, it would be a consideration, I'd be soliciting a motion to consider directing the drafting of a resolution for the next council meeting so this contract could be entered into. So is there a motion by the council to direct the drafting of that resolution?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Ms. Rivera, is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
Second by Mr. Foreman, questions or discussion? Mr. Austin?
Is there any other information this council wants or needs?
I would like for somebody to talk to, the Hanover vet.
Again, we do have to have a way to intake animals. Hold them, intake them, get a
It's
vet to see
challenge.
them.
I mean, I understand the theoretical possibility of opening up ourselves up to litigation or what have you, Mr. Austin. But then again, there's people that have never had house insurance and they never had an issue with their house, right? So it's not a very responsible answer, but.
I love your
you have to do
analogies,
something.
John. It's the
And
greatest.
would the town be responsible anyway if the dog gets attacked by,
I love it.
attack somebody in the neighborhood? Couldn't they still come after the town of Cedar Lake? So I kinda can see both sides of the fence.
I didn't hear the other side.
I feel very good though having
I only
our
heard the
county
one side.
commissioner here who reviews all contracts and asking questions. I mean, that
Well,
gives
we
me a
always have the
level of,
option of taking a red pen and asking the county to review our.
well, we have an option of,
Outing in
if we
30 days.
sign it, we have an option of, with 30 days' notice to
Of getting
break
rid of
it. So if it's something that's not working, we can
Or you
always,
stop delivering animals to the shelter.
right, we
That
can change direction.
constructively ends that.
I mean, that's one of the things that we want in the contract. If you start out and you don't like it, you give us 30 days notice and it's done. Or, the alternative, you just
Stop taking
stop
the
using
animals.
us, yes.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's not like we're binding you for 2 years. There's two separate ways out if you're not satisfied.
Before seeing the director here tonight, I was skeptical on this, but, you've definitely helped to give me a level of comfort with your
But
professionalism.
it is heartbreaking to, tell people where, they're like bowling, pleading, and it's like, we have our budget too, you know what I mean? And I hate to put a number, a price on a life, anyway.
Understood.
So.
So we have a motion second on the floor, to draft the resolution to enter into this contract. Any other questions or discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Robert Carnahan,
Yes.
John Foreman,
Yes.
Julia Rivera,
Yes.
Ralph Miller,
No.
Colleen Sheehan,
No.
Richard Sharp,
No.
Randy Neimeyer.
Yes, motion carries 4-3. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time and thank you for having me.
Thank you, Mr. Cantrell, appreciate it. Okay, the hard stuff is over, I promise. Item 1 is second reading
Two different ones.
of ordinance 1381, public way vacation for VIS. Mr. Sharp, by its title only, please, second reading.
Town of Cedar Lake, Lake County, Indiana, ordinance number 1381. An ordinance vacating a public way in the town of Cedar Lake, Lake County, Indiana, and all matters related thereto.
Thank you. You've heard the second reading of ordinance 1381. Is there a motion to adopt?
I'd like to make a motion to adopt ordinance number 1381.
Motion by Mr. Foreman. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Rivera. Questions or discussion? Roll call, please.
Robert Carnahan,
No.
John Foreman.
Yes.
Julia Rivera,
Yes.
Ralph Miller,
Yes.
Colleen Sheehan,
Yes.
Richard Sharp,
Yes.
Randy Neimeyer.
Yes, motion carries 6-1. Item 2 is ordinance 1384, salary ordinance amendment. Mr. Sharp, by its title, Ms. Sandberg, explanation, please.
Ordinance number 1384, an ordinance amending the town salary ordinance of number 1370, establishing jobs and salaries to be paid certain officers, positions, and jobs within the town of Cedar Lake for the calendar year 2021, and repealing all ordinances or parts thereof in conflict therewith.
Thank you. Ms. Sandberg?
This is an amendment to your 2021 salary ordinance to add the unpaid hearing authority, seat into the 2021 salary ordinance. It's at a not to exceed $103 per meeting. It will be paid 100% out of the general fund.
And there's only quarterly meetings, right, or as
No,
needed?
we're at monthly.
Monthly?
We're at monthly.
Yeah.
So this was brought to my attention by our citizen appointee of this board, that is the only board and commission member that we had, and the entire roster that was volunteer. So I think it's fair to treat all of our citizen appointees the same. So that's why this is here.
I had questions when Chuck Howard was down there. I asked, how can he be on the school board and be on unsafe building? And then I went to Jen and she said he's not getting paid.
Yeah, he was a volunteer.
Didn't
And I-
violate Article
why
2,
not?
Section 9,
So,
not compensated.
okay, ordinance 1384 is up for consideration, salary ordinance amendment. Is there a motion to approve the first reading?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Foreman, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Rivera, questions or discussion? Roll call.
Robert Carnahan?
Yes.
John Foreman?
Yes.
Julie Rivera?
Yes.
Ralph Miller?
Yes.
Colleen Sheehan?
Yes.
Richard Sharp?
Yes.
Randy Heimer?
Yes, motion carries 7-0. Is there a motion to suspend the rules?
I'd
allow
like
for
to make a
second
motion to
reading?
suspend the rules for second reading.
Motion by Mr. Foreman,
I'll second.
second by Ms. Sheben. Questions or discussion? Roll call.
Robert Carnahan?
Yes.
John Foreman?
Yes.
Julie Rivera?
Yes.
Ralph Miller?
Yes.
Colleen Sheehan?
Yes.
Richard Sharp?
Yes.
Randy Heimer?
Yes, motion carries 7-0. Mr. Sharp, ordinance 1384 by its title only, second reading.
Ordinance number 1384, an ordinance amending town salary ordinance number 1370, establishing jobs and salaries to be paid certain offices, positions, and jobs within the town of Cedar Lake for the calendar year 2021, and repealing all ordinances or parts thereof in conflict therewith.
Thank you. Second reading of ordinance 1384. Is there a motion to adopt?
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Rivera. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Miller. Questions or discussion? Roll call.
Robert Carnahan?
Yes.
John Foreman?
Yes.
Julie Rivera?
Yes.
Ralph Miller?
Yes.
Colleen Sheehan?
Yes.
Richard Sharp?
Yes.
Randy Heimer?
Yes, carries 7-0. Ordinance is adopted. Ordinance 1385, amending ordinance 1161, rules and regulations for the water utility to establish and prescribe water sprinkling usage regulations. Mr. Sharp, by its title only, please.
Ordinance number 1385, an ordinance amending town ordinance number 1161, being an ordinance establishing rules and regulations for the water utility for the town of Cedar Lake, Lake County, Indiana, adopting said rules and regulations for the town, repealing all ordinances and town code sections or portions thereof in conflict herewith, and all matters related hereto, repealing all ordinances and town code sections or portions thereof in conflict herewith, and all matters related hereto.
Thank you, Mr. Sharp. Mr. Eberly.
Yes, Mr. President, this ordinance would regulate the water usage as you indicated in your description. It would allow residents that have an even numbered address, now these are residents of our water system. Those that have private wells wouldn't be regulated by this. Those with even numbered addresses would be allowed to do things such as watering lawns, washing vehicles, filling swimming pools, things like that, on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays of each week. And those with odd numbered addresses would be able to do the same on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays of each week. The staff has had some discussion on this. We would ask you, or recommend that you adopt the ordinance on first reading this evening. There's a couple of minor changes that we'd like to see made to this ordinance, and we would have those prepared for your next meeting for your second reading, if you're of a mind to adopt this on first and consider it on second reading in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, some of those changes would include maybe a change of that off day,
Yeah.
as a way to make sure that folks, when they're home on the weekend, can do what they want to do with their lawns or other things that they would use, sprinkling and a lot of water for, so.
Because right now, in this current ordinance, section 2C prohibits the use of the water for any of those uses on Sundays
Right.
altogether. And one of the recommendations we're gonna make is to eliminate that, restriction. So in other words, make, sprinkling or water usage on Sundays available to anyone.
Okay. So we have a first reading that was read by Mr. Sharp and recommendations from our town manager on possible approval of this ordinance on first reading, with the understanding that there will be amendments for the second reading. Is there a motion by the council?
I'd make a motion to approve the ordinance 1385 with the amendments as mentioned by our town manager.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Sheben.
Mr. President,
Mr. Austin.
those comments will be inserted into a second ordinance or for reading in 2 weeks. so.
I'm just asking you to consider and adopt this on
Approve first reading.
as
Yeah,
presented
yeah.
to you.
Okay.
We'll
So-
make changes to the second.
So be it.
Concur?
Concur.
Thank you. The motion second, any other questions or discussion? Roll call.
Robert Carnahan?
Yes.
John Foreman?
Yes.
Julie Rivera?
Yes.
Ralph Miller?
Yes.
Colleen Sheehan?
Yes.
Richard Sharp?
Yes.
Randy England?
Yes, motion carries 7-0. Second reading will be at our council meeting on May 18th. Item 4 is Resolution 1280, Lake County Multi-Hazard Mitigation Plan. Mr. Sharp, by its title, please.
Resolution 1280, a resolution of the town of Cedar Lake, Lake County, Indiana, adopting the current Lake County, Indiana multi-hazard mitigation plan and all matters related thereto.
Mr. Everly?
Mr. President, this, back in, I believe, 2010, we did this same action, we adopted a resolution adopting Lake County's multi-hazard mitigation plan. They have updated that plan in, I believe, 2019, and we need to follow through with adopting it by resolution as well. That makes us eligible for some state and federal funding to address some hazards, particularly stormwater related hazards in the community. Allows us to be part of buyout programs, for example, and we have to have a multi-hazard mitigation plan in order to be parts of those grant programs. And absent doing one of our own, it's sufficient to adopt the county's multi-hazard mitigation plan, and we appreciate the county having done that for all of us, all of those of us that are communities in Lake County. So it's a big plus for them to do that, so we don't have to go through the time and expense of adopting our own multi-hazard mitigation plan.
Thank you, Mr. Everly. Is there a motion by the council to approve Resolution 1280?
Make a motion to approve.
Motion by Ms. Rivera, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Sharp. Questions or discussion? Roll call.
Robert Carnahan?
Yes.
John Foreman?
Yes.
Julie Rivera?
Yes.
Ralph Miller?
Yes.
Colleen Sheehan?
Yes.
Richard Sharp?
Yes.
Randy England?
Yes, 7-0 carries. BZA Plan Commission, Item 1, Rose Garden Estates Water Main Extension. Mr. Everly.
Mr. President, this is something we've been working on for a while. This is an attempt to allow a water main connection, a 12-inch water main connection between Rose Garden and Winsway, is that correct? Yes. Heretofore, there was a strip of land between the two subdivisions that didn't allow the water main looping. This eliminates that. Thank you, Mr. Austin, for working with the petitioner's attorney to get the language correct for this. And it's now ready for your approval, and should you approve it tonight, Mr. President, you and Mr. Sharp have three Mylars in your conference room that are awaiting your signature.
Thank you. Is there a motion by the council on Rose Garden Estates Water Main Extension as presented by the town manager?
I'll make the motion.
Motion to approve?
Approve.
Thank you.
I'll second it.
Motion by Ms. Sheben, seconded by Mr. Miller. Questions or discussion? Roll call.
Robert Carnahan?
Yes.
John Foreman?
Yes.
Julie Rivera?
Yes.
Ralph Miller?
Yes.
Colleen Sheehan?
Yes.
Richard Sharp?
Yes.
Randy England?
Yes, motion carries 7-0. Item 2, we have variance of use for 7105 West 133rd Place. Petitioner Douglas G. Machok, variance to allow a private auto detail shop, a B3 use in a B1 zoning district. Mr. Everly.
Mr. President, Mr. Machok does operate, or wants to operate a private auto detail shop, as you mentioned, in a B1 zoning district. It is a B3 use, so it required a use variance. You received a unanimous favorable recommendation from the BZA on the matter, so it's before you for final disposition.
Thank you. Mr. Carnahan, any comments?
No, it ran very smoothly, and 4-0 vote.
Thank you very much. We have a favorable recommendation of 4-0 by the BZA. Is there a motion to approve this variance of use?
All good.
I'll make a motion to approve the variance.
Motion by Ms. Sheben, is there a second?
A second.
Second by Ms. Rivera, questions or discussion? Any particular findings of fact in this, or contingencies,
There were.
conditions?
Do you have the certification, Rick?
I do, yeah, the last 2 pages of your packet.
Ms. Sheben, would you care to include the findings of facts and conditions in your motion?
Yeah.
You concur, Ms. Rivera?
Yes.
Thank you. Any other questions or discussion?
I like the yellow paper, Rick.
That was Margaret's, idea, so I tell her.
Great idea.
Roll call vote, please.
Robert Carnahan,
Yes.
John Foreman,
Yes.
Julia Rivera.
Yes.
Ralph Miller,
Yes.
Colleen Sheehan.
Yes.
Richard Sharp.
Yes.
Randy Neiman.
Yes, motion carries 7-0. Item 3 is variance of use 9843 Lincoln Plaza Way, petitioner Ginny Lang. Variance to allow 2 businesses, Focus Nutrition and Ginny Lang Photography, on 1 lot in a PUD zoning district. Mr. Everly.
Mr. President, this too received a unanimous favorable recommendation from the Board of Zoning Appeals at that same April 8th meeting, and it's here for your final consideration of this position.
I believe we heard from the petitioners at the last meeting.
We did. Can we go back to the yellow paper for a second?
Sure.
Go ahead.
Well, us lawyers use green paper actually for purposes of that. And this is a public record, so is it intended that these certifications are not to be allowed available to the public? Is that what, is that what that was about? I'm just trying to make certain that there's no.
That was why she did it.
Perfect. Great answer. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a motion by the council to approve the variance of use with any findings of fact or conditions included in the public record for 9843 Lincoln Plaza Way?
I have a question first. Todd,
Yes,
did you look at that building?
we did.
And somebody brought something up to my attention.
We were concerned about the exits,
Yeah.
and they are in total, compliance with fire code. Ready to go.
Is there a motion by the council on the variance of use for 9843 Lincoln Plaza Way with findings of facts and conditions?
Is Ginny here?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay, excellent. I would like to make a motion to approve the, variance 9843 Lincoln Way, allowing 2 businesses, Focus Nutrition and Ginny Lang Photography, on 1 lot.
Thank you. Motion by Mr. Foreman, is there a second? Second by Mr. Sharp, questions or discussion? Roll call.
Robert Carnahan,
Yes.
John Foreman,
Yes.
Julia Rivera.
Yes.
Ralph Miller.
Yes.
Colleen Sheehan.
Yes.
Richard Sharp.
Yes.
Randy Neiman.
Yes, motion carries 7-0. Thank you.
Good luck to you on your endeavor. Thank you for coming to Cedar Lake.
Could I say something just really quick?
Yes, ma'am.
My brain is fried. I'm actually the owner of Focus Nutrition, and we had our grand opening on Saturday, so I'm exhausted right now, but I think that address may be wrong. I think it's 9839 Lincoln Plaza Way, and I don't know if that's gonna cause any issues.
Okay, then what we'll do is we'll just make sure that the record reflects the correct address. Mr. Everly, make sure that, the record is correct. We'll leave the decision as it stands.
Like I said, my brain could be telling me it's late, and I've been working full days ever since we opened.
Well, and coming to an exciting meeting like this doesn't help with brain power.
That's right.
Right back here.
This usually drains everybody.
It's true.
New business, we already did items 1 and 2, and congratulations, by the way, on your businesses.
Yeah.
Item 3 is Lynn's Way ADA repairs, FY21 CDBG. Mr. Everly.
Mr. President, this is the, curb replacement and, sidewalk, curb and sidewalk, handicap accessibility replacement project. This is, I want to clarify something. This is something being done this year, but these are the funds that we have left over from the previous 2 rounds. So this is not what we held the public hearing on 2 weeks ago. That's an upcoming project, and it's also the same curb and sidewalk replacement project. But this is spending money that we had in the
we've accumulated in the past that we did not spend last year. We have $76,000 and some odd dollars left in the CDBG money, but the contract is for $77,893. So CDBG will pay for all but about $1,800 of the work that this contract covers. The rest will come from our own.
As I've read this, this is the boilerplate contract from HUD, correct?
Every contract, yes.
Okay.
So you have three things here, Mr. President. You
Yep.
have a notice of award, contract approval, and notice to proceed. The notice of award and notice to proceed require your signature, Mr. President, but the contract requires the signature of all, 7 council. And those should be tabbed on the document
Yep.
that Ken has, or, yes.
So the notice of award, we'll do all three items here. Item A, notice of award is the contract price award is $77,893.00. Who is that awarded to?
That's formerly Walton.
Milestone, okay. Then the
It's gonna be hard to keep.
contract approval,
Washington County.
that's why I'm reading this into the record right now. Make this simple. As simple as it can be.
Clear as mud, Randy.
Yeah, always. That's my favorite. So the contract approval is the, that includes all of the individual prices and language. Rick, any comments on the contract?
No, sir, it's pretty boilerplate as well.
Okay. And then we have the notice to proceed, page 92. And that again is, the engineer Christopher Burke, engineering and Milestone Contractors North. So is there a motion to approve the notice of award, contract approval, and notice to proceed as submitted in the record?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Foreman,
Second.
second by Ms. Rivera. Questions or discussion? Roll call.
Robert Carnahan?
Yes.
John Foreman?
Yes.
Julie Rivera?
Yes.
Ralph Miller?
Yes.
Colin Sheehan?
Yes.
Richard Sharp?
Yes.
Randy Neemeyer?
Yes, motion carries 7-0. We have item 4 is the CCR water report discussion. Mr. Eberly,
Mr. President, if you don't mind, I'd prefer to defer to, Mr. Kubiak on this one. He has a much more in-depth knowledge.
Mr. Kubiak, the floor is yours.
Yeah, this is just the PCR report for both the east side and the west side water systems. If you remember, in 2019, we missed that one test of the water, which created the whole item. It was corrected immediately, but it still is catching up to the, everything is good and in order now. You guys made a request to review these reports prior to them being sent out to the customers. I don't know if anybody's had a chance to look at them, whether they're in the packet.
Has Neil reviewed these, Tim?
They were sent to Neil,
And did he check off on them?
so, I didn't know if you guys, I guess the intent was to get them to you guys for this meeting, and then maybe at the utility board meeting, we have Ryan here and Neil here, if you guys
Okay.
have anything, any questions to ask before that. They need to be sent out by June 30th, correct? Yes. They need to be mailed out by June 30th.
Okay,
I just wanted to get them to you guys so you could look at it.
thank you.
Are we in compliance with?
Yeah, we were, that one test that was missed was for a short period of time, but it's been a fiasco. And there's still down there, the item people are reviewing and checking, and it's,
That's one great thing when you screw up and you get involved in bureaucracies. They become the most important people in the room.
it's like the recycle thing.
They have to justify their existence.
Oh, gosh.
So we know the lesson, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Screw up.
Attention to detail.
There is no action you need to take.
Thank you. Okay.
Well,
Well, it's just a discussion item.
yeah,
There's really no action.
Ryan here at the utility board meeting.
That's where we need to vote.
Yeah.
Questions.
this will be a utility
And
item.
we still have time.
That makes sense.
Any questions for Mr. Kubiac? Thank you. We have reports, Town Council, Mr. Carnahan. Floor is yours first, as always.
Cedar Lake, Chamber of Commerce is going to have a luncheon on, May the 17th, and the keynote speaker is going to be our town manager. It'll be held at Harrio's at 12 noon, the cost is $20.
I've heard he's a dynamic
Wow.
speaker.
$20.
Rick, are you worth $20? Okay, I'm not going.
Thank you, Bob. Any other council reports?
I have a question. I've gotten a couple questions about our newsletter. We said we were gonna do it quarterly. It is May. People are saying they haven't seen the newsletter yet. Where are we at with that?
So the newsletter was previously handled by your county administrator and her administrative assistant at the time. I guess it would be however the council wishes to proceed, who would be in charge of doing that newsletter moving forward.
Okay. Mr. Rick, can you handle it?
Oh, sure. What format was it in? Was it all electronic?
Jill, it's all electronic. Jill will fill you in.
Well, no, it was a paper format. I mean, we sent it out, we used to send it out
Well,
every
we
month.
printed it.
Yeah.
It's my understanding that,
Sarah.
that Mr. Moore.
Okay,
And,
thank you.
and I would assume
Thanks,
we
Chief.
solicit input from other departments, from like police, fire,
Yes.
You would ask for,
There's,
you would ask for things like, something we put in the newsletter.
Sure.
Yeah, it would be update reports on different happenings in the town and,
You can, yeah. You can put the eco to see 2 feet, human feet, in the corner of the newsletter. Right, Randy? I wanted to use that, Randy.
it's pretty nifty. You should have been in marketing.
I
instead
should have,
of-
I missed my calling in life.
You
Yeah,
missed
sure
it.
did.
I missed my calling.
Any other council reports?
I got a question.
Yep.
Is this something we could look into, the budget, and see if this is something we could go back to doing it every month?
You would not be able to go back to doing it
Not
every
this
month this year because
Okay.
of the cost, because we cut that
That's-
cost out.
Mhm. We could look at it for next year.
Electronically and putting it on the website, would that?
I would have to discuss with.
But there's a lot of effort, energy. Quarterly is good.
We'll-
Quarterly is good as long as we do it.
Yeah.
We just haven't done it. Do it now, do it at the end of summer.
Okay.
Right before Christmas.
Ralph, any other,
No.
okay, any other council reports?
We had a great street meeting. Rick, were you gonna comment on that?
Well, we did have a good street meeting. I don't have the summary with me, John. but
So
we've
next
got-
meeting.
We've got several, areas of town and we've got, east side and west side, I think, well represented in terms of
We
what
do.
we want to do with our local fund and improve some of those.
We'll show a map at the next meeting.
And the dollars are pretty close too.
Yeah, it worked out well.
Yeah, we had one day of like all committee meetings here and
Yeah.
it was actually very good. There was a lot of
Taking
junk
vacation
food
of
here and
all
all
things.
kinds of stuff. But I'll dovetail into that
Mhm.
segue is, we had a, council affairs meeting with, Chief Wilkening as well to discuss, raises for the fire department by elimination of one additional position this year and spreading out that budgeted money throughout the department, and that would, take effect July 1, so there will be, some action items coming up to reflect that, that's gonna help to boost the salaries of our, personnel.
Awesome.
In the fire department, we've had, a tremendous amount of turnover there, so this is an effort to try and stave off some of that turnover and hopefully keep some people, because there's not a lot of applicants out there anymore, to get into this job or any other job. Every business I know of is looking for people desperately.
Crazy.
We pay a lot of people to do nothing now, so it's difficult to find people to put their lives at risk. So this is a needed item and will be considered the first meeting in July.
Hey, Chief Todd, I got my second COVID shot at Gary Roosevelt last Saturday, and there were a couple of paramedics that were checking you out when you leave, you know? And I tried recruiting them to move from the Mishawaka, South Bend area to Cedar Lake, so you had a couple more guys. Just wanna let you know that.
You seem impressed.
You have the floor, because you come up with a new slogan for the big green, and.
It won't be green anymore.
Not paying for school kids, maybe, would be kind of a cool thing.
That's a good idea.
I was thinking about that.
Don't hurt Bob.
Big campaign.
What about Crown Point?
just saying.
What about-
Hey, Todd, we're moving through this, we're moving through this pretty good, and you're distracting John now.
Let's go.
So. Any other council reports? It's always your turn, chief. Any other council reports? Okay, town attorney.
I'll give my time to the fire chief who has a contract.
He needs it, yes.
I appreciate that, Dave.
Not legal. Not legal.
Clerk treasurer,
No report.
town manager,
Mr. President, I just wanted to remind everybody that we were successful in getting the community crossing matching grant funds for the Fairbanks project.
taking care of you, Bob.
Yeah. Yep.
Got you covered.
Unfortunately, that was the smaller of the two ones that we applied for, but we were able to get that 50/50 money, so I have to revoke that. That's it, Mr. President.
Good deal.
50/50.
Director of operations,
I just wanna say that, the Always Underground crews were out, I don't know if you guys noticed, the last few days they were out on 133rd Industrial Drive and got all of those holes that they tore up through the winter. They did a really good job on repairing them all. They put a lot of material back in there, and actually, one of the first people that came in here and did what they said they were gonna fix everything up to.
that's nice. Normally contractors.
That was
leave us with
amazing, what
garbage.
I've been watching, yeah. That was amazing.
And they really, really did a great job.
They did.
Back in water that was before they came, so, they still got a little bit of cleanup around the road, but, AT&T hired those guys, they really did a good job.
Good.
See that, we got somebody in here doing something, looking for a change. I wanted to say, so,
Thank you, Tim.
that's all I have, thanks.
Police department,
Council, I just have two things real quick. When, you guys eliminated the position for code enforcement, I know that was a very difficult subject to have a conversation on, and I respect that. I did have a brief meeting with, President Niemeyer, in that meeting, he told me that if I could find that stuff, that he wanted me to bring it in front of y'all, in a public forum, to do that. So, in researching my budget, we found that, there's a couple of, lines that had, how do I say it? Overfunded. Not by any means of the police department or, the clerk's office, but that it was, FICA Med, and the numbers that were put in there is because we don't pay into Social Security disability, right? So there's, additional funds there, which actually is going to help the clerk out in some stuff that you guys need as well. What I need from you is about $14,000 to $16,000, to finish her, out throughout the year, and then we can revisit, putting her back on, my budget, in the continuing years. Since last year, she's issued over 600 tickets and warnings. We have 7 citations that are due to go to court with, Ryan, this month, but is now not employed with us. It is part-time. She's only working about 20 hours a week on average. Hourly is only about $16.08 an hour. But she does a lot of these things that we're getting a lot of complaints on. We receive complaints on, pool fences. We receive complaints on, sump pumps on the sidewalk, or things of those natures that she takes care of during the week. Now, I know this is a sore subject for a couple of you, but I would, ask that the council consider bringing her back, allowing me to transfer those funds to a part-time position, and, let her finish out the year, especially through the summer. With the, explosion of building up that's going on in the town, I think this is that is needed, and needs to be restored.
can you prepare an agenda item, work with the police chief for the next council meeting? So the council can consider this?
So we can say that.
Yep. We need to see all the financial data and information.
Fantastic, thank you, sir. The only other question that I have is, at last year's budget hearing and meetings, you guys approved the permission to move forward with 2 officers. One was a replacement for a retiree, and one is a new officer for the beginning, or the middle of the summertime. I just wanted to ensure that that is okay to begin moving forward. The Board of Safety is aware of it, we had conversation about it. The paperwork takes a good month, to get it going and get it to perf. My goal would be to have it in front of you by your July 6th meeting, for approval for both officers. to move forward with them. But I just wanna make sure that you're okay with us starting this month to move forward with their perk testing and all the requirements that are needed before we, can bring it in front of you.
I would say since we adopted the budget and those were included, that
I'm just
let's giddy up,
being
chief.
respectful and asking to make sure you're still good with it, because
I-
sometimes we approve stuff and sometimes all of a sudden we don't have it, so.
Well, as long
Jen?
as the budget's in order,
Jennifer, yeah.
Thumbs up or down, Jen?
if the budget's in order, let's go forward.
That's all I have. I
Okay.
might be a new grandpa tonight, so I'm gonna,
Oh, wow.
I'm gonna go.
Congratulations.
Not yet, they're 10 minutes apart, so
Why don't you,
I'm leaving now.
why don't you talk
Yes, you
about
need
the
to
new
go.
officer that just came on board?
Next meeting.
Officer, okay.
Because there's a baby about to be delivered, Bob.
We just hired Officer Dills, who just finished the academy, and she started last week.
Thanks, Chief. We'll see you.
You can't make this up.
Good luck.
Thank
Oh,
you.
my
See you guys later.
It's the fire department section, but Mr. Attorney, you have any comments that you yielded your time to him?
Well, the
I
fire
just
chief,
want the same thumbs up that the police chief gets from Jen.
Hey, didn't I just give a report on a thumbs up here? Jeez, oh, Pete, chief. Good Lord. Chief Wilkening, you have the floor
Oh,
for
yeah. Okay,
15 seconds.
In looking at part-time people for the fire department, one of the things that we're finding out is industry's also now paying paramedics to do, temperature checks at the gate, and they're paying $45 an hour.
Holy smokes.
So I now have 4 paramedics that work part-time up at BP Amoco,
I don't blame him.
making $45 an hour to
Holy
literally take a
cow.
thermometer, put it by your forehead, and write your badge number down and let you in. So that's another part of the shortage that we're seeing in the fire service in this area, is that, there's private sector jobs that are becoming very lucrative for those people as well because of COVID.
Wow.
The second thing is the scope of work, paperwork for the fire station, was sent over to Dave's office, and he and I had discussion about this, about getting it on the agenda tonight to, approve that project pending attorney review.
I'll take it back now.
Huh?
I'll take it back now.
The RDC did approve 40.
Maybe not.
The RDC
He
did
didn't
approve
yield.
an additional 40,000 to the project.
Mr. Austin?
Mr. President, council members, this is really a special kind of a project. It's unique and custom. Fire station improvements, housing quarters, various things. And Title V permits a specialty contract to be entered into. I suggested, we talked briefly yesterday about this. I suggested that if he couldn't get it on the agenda, that his recommendation be what it was, and I concur in that. I didn't get to look at it, but I will, subject to attorney or legal review. That makes a lot of sense.
Motion by council to amend the agenda.
so moved.
Motion by Mr. Miller, second by Mr. Sharp. Questions or discussion? Roll call.
Robert Carnahan?
Yes.
John Foreman?
Yes?
Julie Rivera?
Yes.
Ross Miller?
Yes.
Colleen Scheven?
Yes.
Richard Sharp?
Yes.
Randy Neiman?
Yes, motion carries 7-0. Mr. Austin, the agenda item presentation, please.
This is a contract that's been presented to the town for specialty and critical improvements at the fire station by Hen & Sons, $138,000, Todd?
142, 346 is the newest number, but he knows he has to stay under 140.
Okay. Not to exceed 140. Subject to legal review, that would be good action.
Okay. You've heard the presentation of the agenda item and recommendation by the attorney. Pending legal review, is there a motion to approve this?
I'll make the motion to approve it pending legal review.
Thank you. Motion by Ms. Sheben, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Sharp. Questions or discussion? Roll call.
Robert Carnahan?
Yes.
John Foreman?
Yes.
Julie Rivera?
Yes.
Ross Miller?
Yes.
Colleen Scheven?
Yes.
Richard Sharp?
Yes.
Randy Neiman?
Yes, motion carries 7-0. So you got your thumbs up.
July start, is what he said. Thank you. I got the thumbs up.
Thank you, Chief. Anything else? Good. Okay. Written communication. Open public comment.
Tracy, will you get up and talk about the parade?
Casey Haskell, give you my address.
Just say what organization you're with.
Cedar Lake Summerfest.
Okay, thank you.
The 4th of July parade, of course, everyone knows the 4th this year's on Sunday. We don't do parades on Sunday. It's church day. We don't want to stop the roads for nobody to go to church. So it is Saturday, July 3rd. We have the form. Anybody can be in it. It doesn't necessarily have to be an organization or a business. If a family wants to be in it, they can be in it. Hopefully, the community who makes those cardboard boats, because they're starting to put those in the parade a little bit more. We have a farmer that brings his tractors every year. He drives about 45 minutes to get here. So hopefully this year will be a good year. I do emphasize to everybody, no walkers until Dairy Bell, because that just, it puts big spaces.
It's a
Of course,
long
people
walk.
wait until they go past me and I can't see them, then they jump off the slope. So hopefully they listen, and hopefully we'll have a good turnout, since we didn't have one last year.
Thanks, Tracy.
Thank you for doing this.
No problem.
Appreciate it. It's good to get back to normal.
Yep.
Any other public comment? Forward, state your name and address for the record, please.
My name's Louis Martin, I live at 13405 Hickory Street.
Okay.
And I have a gentleman that lives in front of me that has a fire every Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I have one lung, and I've went to him. My neighbors came in here, Laura, and complained about the same individual. And we really, I mean, I'm not here to stop recreational fires. I'm
The
just
chief
here.
is. Those aren't allowed, like the type of fire you're talking about, so.
Yeah, campfires, we do allow as long as it's clean wood, and it's 3 by 3. But if he's burning yard waste, then that's.
No, he burns wood, but he burns it every Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and.
So what's
and
the
it's-
address?
That's on 133rd in Cedar Point Park. Our chief told me to call the 911 about it. That's ridiculous. I mean, this has been going on for 2 years. He's lived there for 2 years. All
That is
I'm
the
asking
procedure,
is
though.
just get a little control on it. I mean, it can't be every weekend it's a recreational fire.
So they can't enforce it if you don't call 911.
But
And get an
that's,
officer over there.
well,
That's the problem.
you do that and the officer shows up and sees that it's in a burning barrel, even though it's been every weekend. Then they pull off, say, oh, it's in a burning barrel.
So you're
Well-
saying you have a medical issue that,
Well, I have one lung and I really don't wanna breathe.
I get it, I understand.
Smoke.
So the smoke's coming towards your residence?
I live south of him.
Okay, so then.
And so every time it, a south wind comes, it blows in my
If it
house.
creates a nuisance for you, then it has to be put out. They can't do that. So if it's creating a nuisance, I'll talk to the police chief,
Good luck
he's
with
gone
that,
right now.
cause I did
But I
it
will
and
discuss it with
it,
if you give me your information, we'll take care of it.
okay. I mean, it just, slow it down.
Yeah,
I'm not
okay.
asking it stopped, I mean, just slow it down. I mean, it's,
But I'm gonna need a solid address.
Thank you, sir.
thank you, I appreciate
Thank
you.
you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Any other public comment? Any other public comment? Third call, last call, public comments closed. Next town council meeting is Tuesday, May 18th at 7 PM. That will be preceded by a utility board meeting at 6:30. So thank everyone tuned in online. Any comments online? Okay. Thank everyone, who attended. Appreciate you, sticking with us. Have a good night. Meeting adjourned.